Okay, recently Nancy shared this image with us where she was practicing the use of backlighting with a casual street portrait. Now, with backlighting, what this means is the sun is behind you and lighting the subject from behind. And as you can see, it's done a really nice job of putting some highlights, particularly around the hat and the shoulders of the woman in the photo. But the downside of backlighting is the entire background is also very bright, which can be really distracting for the users. So here's a great way to isolate your subject and separate it from that background so that you have the backlighting on the person where you want it, but you're minimizing the distracting impacts on bright things like the car here in the background. The first thing we're going to do here in Photoshop is we're going to make a copy of our background layer. I always do that so we have something to revert back to. And in fact, a lot of times I'll just turn it off so I don't accidentally go down there. Leave it locked, you can't hurt it. Now, the first step is going to be to select this woman and to save that selection so we can use it later. Now, I know making selections is an area that can be challenging, especially when you're starting out in Photoshop. And I'm doing this just with a mouse and the quick selection wand. So if you look over here in your selection tools, you'll see there's the quick selection tool and the magic wand, and that's addition to the lasso tools that you have above. So with the quick selection wand, you'll notice in the top we have this normal new selection area. Then we have a little plus sign, and then we have a little minus sign. So whenever the plus sign is selected, we're going to add to the selection we're making. If we accidentally pick up an area we don't want, we just switch into minus mode to remove it. So here we are with the plus mode on, and you can also make this bigger if you want to. Just I'm using the bracket keys to move it up and down. But let's take it, and we know we want our hat, and so you can see how it's using some of those old magic color selection techniques to pull in big areas of her all at once. And so I am just, yes, thank you, close. I am just clicking and adding to this. What that message was is Photoshop has recently been upgraded with some additional select and refine edge tools, which might make this easier, but I'm going to do this the old school way because that's how I did the first example. Now you can see I'm just holding down my mouse button and I am dragging this all along the woman and her clothing. And you can see it even did a nice job leaving the middle out, but it might, see right there, it's taken it in. So now it's selected the area behind her. So to undo that, we can click up here and switch to the minus, or we can just hold in the Alt button, not the Alt button, the Control button. Nope, maybe it is Alt. Yes, the Alt button for a moment, or the Option. I usually do this on my Mac at home. And you can see it's not doing as good a job. So what I'm going to do is make this even smaller. And by making it even smaller, I can select a little more finely. Now we're back in plus mode. So in plus mode, we're going to have to slowly add the black back in. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing over here on the shirt. So as you practice with this, it's actually going to get pretty close to perfect, and it will be close enough that your feathering is going to make up for any differences. So don't worry about it being absolutely perfect. You can see we've got her clothing selected. We still don't have her arm over here, so I'm going to go ahead and make that selection thing a little bigger again. Just going to drag it right down all those lovely tattoos. And we want to make sure we get her fingers and even the cigarette there. And you can see, because I've made it big, we've got some more of this stuff, so I'm going to go back to making it small. Hold down the Alt again. Let's get rid of the pavement because we don't want that in here in the bright area. And sometimes it's easier to do a little bit at a time, so you don't have to hold it and drag it. You can just let off and select. It's not like that magic lasso where you can't let up without it doing something. So I think we've got it pretty good there. There's also this little area between her legs, the thigh gap, as us women know it's called. If we want to get rid of that, we can make it really small and click in there. You can see it did it really quickly. If you don't want to do that, it's probably okay. It's not going to hurt it. So now you can tell from the marching ants that we have most of this. It looks like we might be missing a little bit of the hat. So I want to make sure that we have all this hat. I think what it's missed is the hat band because that's white. Yep, there we go. I just clicked in the white. You see it added in the hat band. Now, what we want to do is go up to where it says select the menu, and we're going to go down to save selection. Now, when we save the selection, the best place to save it is in a new channel, and I'm just going to name this channel Woman. And We hit OK. And now if we want to, you can actually go and click into your channel palette that's there with your layers, and you'll see that we have woman selected. And if we hit the little button, you'll see all of our selection is in color and the rest of it is in that funky red that you get. So we'll turn that back off. We know that's what we're working with. And what this will let us do is make independent adjustments to the woman and to the background. If I come down here, now the next thing I think I want to do is I'm going to make 2 more copies of this. We're going to leave this just like it is for now. So I'm going to come down here, drag another copy there, and we'll go ahead and do 1 more. So on the first copy, what I want to do is tone down that background. So one way to do that is to select, instead of what we have selected now, it's still loaded, so we can hit the button to inverse it. Oops, maybe we shouldn't do that. That gave us something really scary. We can go to select and inverse. The keyboard shortcuts are different on the PC. Control-Shift-I instead of just Control-I. There we go. Now we've changed it. We have the background selected. And we can do this a couple of different ways. We could do a blending mode mask, like in the video Michael showed us a while back. But what I tend to prefer to do here is I go into the adjustment panel, and if that's not opened up, you can go up here to Window and just select Adjustments. And I do a curves adjustment. Now you can drag and adjust all of your curve elements independently if you want. Often it's easy to start out by just saying, I want to make it darker. And there it has dropped the level of brightness on the entire background of this. If you want to adjust it more, you can adjust the curve from this position. And I suspect this is probably also about what we would see if we applied the multiply mode from the layer blending modes and did the mask there. And because that area was selected, you can see that this curve is only applying to the white areas, right? The black is hiding any application it would have to the woman. So now we've darkened the background. I think the next thing we probably want to do is brighten the woman up just a little. But you'll see the woman's not selected anymore. You don't want to have to go and select her again. So we're going to go here to our background copy, and we are going to come up here to select. And this time we are going to choose load selection. And we're going to drop down from this channel and we're going to pick woman. And when we hit OK, you're going to see that our marching ants are right back and the woman is selected again. This time, what I want to do is the exact opposite. I'm going to leave her selected. I'm going to do another curves adjustment. And here you have some options. You can play with it a few different ways. You could say, oh, I just want to increase the contrast. That kind of makes her look a weird Oompa Loompa orange. But because we're trying to play up the light hitting her, it might actually be nice to go ahead and make her just a little bit lighter, right? So now you have a huge separation between the background and the woman herself. So if we turn these off, and in fact, you'll notice I didn't actually need to make these copies. You only need that if you want to do it in the blending mode. So we only need these 3. So if we turn on first the lighting to the woman, and then we'll turn on the darkening of the backdrop. Now, of course, you still need to come in and darken these areas here. Something you can do if you're happy with how this looks at this point and you want to work with it as a unified picture going forward. Well, if you just click on any one of these that are visible, and it's Control, Shift, Alt, E. And what that has done is it has merged these visible layers into one. So it's the same thing you would get if you selected all 3 and went to this menu and said merge layers. So now we don't even need these layers, right? We can get rid of them. And all of our changes are apparent here in this top layer. And we can come in, we can select that hot spot, darken it up, do whatever we want with it. If you are space conscious about the space on your hard drives, something you want to remember anytime you're working with channels is at the end, go ahead, delete out any layers you don't want and delete the channel. Now, the downside to that is you can't come back in here and edit, because if we wanted to, right, we could come back down to these adjustment layers, and we could come back to this layer where we've adjusted the woman, and we could double click on that curve and we could say, oh, you know what? I don't want it to be quite that bright, and turn it down just a little. We could actually control how much of the brightness goes in there. Once you delete that, you're kind of lost, and the only way to get it back is to go back to the original. But like I said, if you're space conscious, go ahead, clear all of these out. Keep your original somewhere, so clear those out, and also go back into your channel palette and delete it out of there too, because a lot of times you're essentially storing an entire extra copy of this, which you just don't need. Anyway, that's the quick and dirty how to do a fast selection and use it to make some lighting changes and isolate that foreground object. I hope the recording worked. Thanks.